Hello and welcome to Will of the Fans. My name is Will. See what I did there, and I know what you're thinking. Why the hell is he going live right now, doing a live stream with absolutely no advertisement or announcement ahead of time, or any sharing anywhere, telling anybody about it at a time of day when most of his audience are probably in bed? Well, unfortunately for me, the actual reason is that I just simply do not have the time to produce and edit and thumbnail multiple videos today, or really any day in the upcoming future. And that may sound like a terrible thing, but please don't panic if you are watching this on a VOD, because I doubt anybody's going to watch it live. What I actually mean is I need to give you a bit of an update about the channel. So I've got plenty of topics I'm going to talk about today. Obviously, we've got the DCU thing, we've got Zachary Levi getting based, and of course, the Bill and Frank situation that started a miniature war in the comment section of one of my videos. I still haven't seen the episode yet, full disclosure, but I do know enough about it to be able to give sort of a commentary on it. But in the meantime, before I do any of that, I would like any of you watching this now or later to just maybe indulge me for a few minutes so that I might explain to you where I'm at, where this channel is at, and indeed where it is going. So I began operations, if you like, on this channel back in June of 2022. And at that time, I started uploading content daily, 3 or 4 videos a day. It got to by about October, and it's been going swimmingly. I've had a lot of support from a lot of really great people who have shown up. I quickly made friends with a lot of other YouTubers like Hypnotic and Film Rebel, The Coach, Prime, and of course Fatal J, Dragon Slayer, and many others, and began streaming with them, and it's all been just an absolute blast. Now, again, this is not an announcement of something bad. It's just that I do feel like I owe those of you who've been supporting me for so long kind of an explanation of why I haven't been uploading very much. So, like I said, I began in June uploading regular content, and all was going very, very well until, unfortunately, I had a tragedy that many of you already know about. I live in the Philippines. I brought my family here to escape the West and retire, and unfortunately, we lost my mother back in November. Now you think, right, that's a pretty good reason to take a small hiatus. And yeah, I had to. Fortunately, I have a wonderful Mrs. of the Fans, see what she did there, who took care of most of the hardcore admin that's associated with losing a loved one, left me with time to grieve and get past it. Did kind of get in the way of me uploading content, but I was determined to bounce back. Of course, Christmas came and New Year came too. These things kind of get in the way as well, but really the biggest problem was what the hell we were going to do with the rest of our lives. Now, it's no secret that when you lose a major loved one, a pillar of whatever family paradigm you have, there are going to be longer term repercussions than you first see. One of these, like I said, was what are we going to do with our future? Very difficult to determine something like that. And once again, it was Mrs. of the Fans, see what she did there, to the rescue. Actually, she suggested to me something that has been a passive interest of mine for pretty much my entire adult life, and that is hospitality business. I've always enjoyed staying in hotels, hanging out in bars, meeting people, talking to people. I'm a very gregarious people person kind of guy, as most of you probably have already worked out. So it became less about buying a permanent home and more about turning a home into a business. Now that has resulted in me having a lot of stuff to do as the only driver in my family. That means that we are relocating, we are renovating, and there's an enormous amount of branding and marketing work that goes into starting a new venture, which unfortunately has eaten into my thumbnail time, my recording time, and everything else for this channel. I will continue to upload content as I can. There will be days when I can't upload at all, and there will be days when I am able to upload. So I was thinking to myself, scratching my head, what am I going to do? Well, I do have one option. and that's to talk about multiple topics in a live stream. Only got to make one thumbnail that way. I get to talk to any of you if you're actually around in the comments. Whoever is in the comments, please make some noise. I will be happy to chat to you. And that way I'm still uploading content to the channel, even though I don't have the kind of time that I need. Of course, rest assured, one of the benefits of doing this business is passive income. As it takes off and begins to work, I won't have to be quite so involved. I will have more time again for YouTube. Of course, we're talking about in a couple of months, probably. The other thing that's going to be a great bonus for me is I'll get to design and inhabit my own studio. Hello, Gregor. How are you doing? I can see you in the chat. Nice to see you there, man. Hope you're enjoying this slight explanation of what the heck I'm up to at the moment, because a lot of people have been asking where I've been, why I'm not uploading. It's just a temporary thing. At the moment, I have to prioritize this new venture. I have a lot of responsibility to my family, and I'm the only able-bodied driver, like I said. So that means I'm quite often on the road, or if I'm not on the road, then I'm working on the branding and marketing for the new venture. Like I said, at the end of this all, we'll get a better situation for me, a better living situation, a better studio setup, and everything, so that I will be able to continue to make the kind of content that you guys have been enjoying for the time. Well, thank you for showing up. Just stumbled into it. Good for you. In any case, we do have some topics that I'm going to talk about besides myself. I know it's not very professional to go into my personal life, but many of the people who watch this channel regularly have and made it their business to ask me how I'm doing. So I thought I owed you guys an explanation, an apology for the lack of content, and a promise that the content will pick up the pace again just as soon as it's able to. But in the meantime, we've had some major news, as many people have been talking about for the last sort of 24 hours. James Gunn kind of had his arm twisted, it seems, into announcing exactly what his plans are with Peter Safran for the DCU, no longer EU, apparently, going forward. And we have had the slate revealed, which is extremely interesting, and it does show us the kind of projects that we're going to be seeing over the next few years. We'll get into it. Now, let's just put this up on the screen and we can take a look, as we've got a little recap here from the direct. New DC Slate, every movie and TV show announced in DCU reboot. All right, perfect. There is, of course, a video on James Gunn's Twitter that you can go and watch if you would like to. It's actually, I think it's done him a lot of good for PR, because when you see him talking about these projects, he seems to laugh quite a lot, which I don't know about you, but I take to mean, you know, some sincerity, possibly even a bit of joy in what he's doing. And he needs the PR right now after that backlash to firing Henry Cavill as Superman, because nobody was going to be on board with that. Just absolutely no way. So let's have a look at what we've got coming up, shall we? Here we go then. After a long wait, James Gunn and Peter Safran's new DCU slate has finally arrived, and it's jam-packed with exciting character introductions and universe building potential. Okay, so what we got? During a special presentation by Variety, because it's always Variety, DC Studios co-CEO James Gunn announced the first chapter of the DCU reboot as DCU Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters. Okay, I actually don't mind the fact that he's gone here with the chapter idea, because, you know, you've got phases in Marvel. Maybe that's what these represent. Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters. Not a bad idea. A nice way to differentiate yourself, and also sort of sell the idea to fans that you have a plan, that you know that there's going to be a chapter 2, a chapter 3, a chapter 4. That's at least what I've taken from it. Gunn explained there, I guess it means them and him and Peter Safran, their strategy for developing the slate. One of our strategies is to take our diamond characters, Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, and we use them to prop up other characters that people don't know. Well, that's a no-brainer. That's obviously the kind of thing that Marvel never even had the chance to do. When they began the MCU, they started with Iron Man, who it seems almost ridiculous to say at this point, but he used to be a C-tier character at best in Marvel. The average man walking down the street wouldn't have had a damn clue who Iron Man was 12, 13 years ago. And now he's one of the biggest guys out there, as big probably as Spider-Man. Well, maybe not quite that big, but very close. Whereas DC, and this is one of the criticisms that people have always had for DC, is the fact that they had all these characters available to them, and they still absolutely screwed it up. They totally messed it up. You had a disjointed, disconnected universe of universes. You had 2 or 3 different Batmans. You had 2 Jokers. You had one Superman who never got used anywhere near enough, then got dumped, then brought back and unceremoniously dumped again. It's, Wonder Woman was a lucky break for them, and then they screwed it with the sequel. They made it ridiculous. It was kind of post-feminist, weird ridiculousness. And of course, Patty Jenkins doesn't seem to understand the idea of consent, as we all remember from Wonder Woman 1984. It's been a mess. Now, we all said when James Gunn let Henry Cavill go that we would have to wait and see. Well, this is what I said anyway, because I'm slightly diplomatic about these things. I said, wait and see. Maybe he's letting everybody go. Maybe he's just realized that if you're going to start a new universe, you've got to draw a line under it and just let it go. Let what's been be what it was and start again, especially when you have such a disastrous, disjointed mess of a universe as the DCEU. So he's dropped the E, and then he made a mistake because he then announced that he wouldn't be against working with Ezra Miller, who, as we know, is a serial felon, has a lot of splaining to do. Whereas Henry Cavill is a consummate gentleman, beloved by absolutely everybody, and seems to be a massive nerd who takes things very, very seriously. So there you go. It wasn't going to be good PR. So coming out and announcing all of this in a video, laughing and smiling about how happy he is a good way to turn that back around. And of course, like he says, he has got the tentpole characters to be able to lift up smaller, lesser-known characters in a way that Marvel just couldn't. By all accounts, a DCU should have been an easy job, a much, much easier job. You say, Gregor says he's going to be dropped after The Flash, Ezra Miller. Yeah, well, that's what we've heard. I mean, that's what's been said, but he hasn't actually confirmed it. He said he would be open to working with him again. I hope that's just like a deflection to try and avoid any potential LGBTQ backlash. And then he'll be quietly swept under the rug because, honest to God, if I had Ezra Miller on my payroll, I would get rid of him super duper fast. He would be gone immediately. Late night stream. Hey, how you doing there, man? Very good. Yeah, well, I mean, this is just a stream. Oh, for Christ's sakes. Is someone actually calling me right now? There you go. That's what happens when you go live. Good God, I even told him I was going live. Can you believe that just happened? Well, so this is why I called it episode 0. It's an experiment. This is actually my first ever live stream on Will of the Fans. And yeah, the reason I'm doing it now is because it's actually just convenient for me. I know it sucks. I'm not really expecting many viewers live. More people will watch it in the VOD. But I thought it would be good. I've explained already why I haven't uploaded so much. I'm very busy right now, and I'll be getting back into the rhythm of things maybe in the next few weeks. Definitely at some point, though, with a better studio and a whole new life and much more conducive to making good YouTube content. But right now, we're just discussing this DCU announcement because I think it's actually been really good PR for James Gunn. His performance, if you want to call it that, in his video was quite convincing. He seemed to be really happy about what he's doing. And of course, we're just sort of talking about how everybody had the opportunity to make a DCEU that was a total home run, but it was absolutely screwed by total mismanagement. And that's why it's a good thing that James Gunn is here. For better or worse, he seems to have a plan. So Safran continued by explaining what makes DC Studios different from other production entities. He said DC Studios is unprecedented. It is a standalone production entity and studio. It's the first time ever that everything DC related, film, television, live action, animation, and gaming. Gaming is an interesting one there. It's all centralized under one creative vision, that of James and myself. Now, this sounds like great news. This sounds like the kind of thing that could do what's never been done before, a coherent multimedia superhero universe. Yes, there are some very interesting things on the slate, Gregor. Yeah. I mean, we have got a lot. I'll get into it. It's further down in the list, so we'll carry on. Gunn brought together a writer's room to build the DCU shared universe. The Martian, writer Drew Goddard, Moon Knight, and Doom Patrol's Jeremy Slater. Now, of course, Moon Knight. Not exactly a very good series. The Flash and Batgirl scribe Christina Hobson. Again, iffy, but if there's the right person at the creative helm, then it could work. most of these writers, Patty Jenkins, for example, only screwed the pooch because they were given total control over the script and everything. When Patty Jenkins was working under bigger management that were actually monitoring what she's doing, then, oh, look what happened. You had a successful Wonder Woman film. As soon as Patty Jenkins had nobody looking over her shoulder and making sure she's not doing something stupid, she screwed the pooch. Wonder Woman 1984 was a fucking disaster. I think everybody knows that. We sat down in a room for a few days and started to bash out what the basic overall plan could be. At least it took a few days. I would have taken a few weeks, but, you know, at least it took a few days, not a few minutes, like it seems Hollywood does these days. Not so much that it tied your wrist, but good enough that we know what the basic story is, where we're going, and it's something that we'll continue to do. The slate has 11 projects, 10 new titles and 1 Elseworlds. And that was one of the things that James Gunn said in his video that was very interesting to me, was that he said, yes, we're going to continue to do Elseworlds, but we are going to really, really slam it home that these are Elseworlds, not part of the conducive universe. So fair enough. That is the kind of thing that absolutely should have been done. I mean, if you were going to do Joker, which of course was a fantastic movie, but it did muddy the waters of the Batman thing, especially right after Suicide Squad. So you should have said Elseworlds Joker. And then you're free to get away with murder in future productions. You can add these mashups of characters. That's what DC's always done. But, you know, you do need one central timeline that is actually the timeline so that people can measure against it. It doesn't work if you don't do these things. So that was good. We have Superman Legacy. Now, as many people know, I'm a gigantic, yeah, I like that concept too. I am a gigantic Superman fan. I read some of the comics. I got to be honest, I've never read that many of the comics. They just weren't that available in the UK to me in my particular town where I grew up. But the movies, the Donner movies, you better believe I was watching them. Superman 1 had a major impact on my entire life. I can explain this. I don't usually do this in videos, but since we're live, I got a little extra time. Yes, it gives standalone projects a chance. Very good comment. We are looking here at an opportunity to do an awful lot. But like I'm saying, Superman actually had an enormous amount of sway over my entire life. When I was 3, I was totally obsessed with Superman. Totally obsessed. To the extent that my mother actually ended up teaching me how to play the theme tune, you know, the John Williams theme tune, on a keyboard. And that's all I wanted to do for a long, long time. To the extent that eventually I ended up learning how to play the piano for 14 years. Passed all my grades, got all that. And then that is actually what ended up bringing me here to Asia, which ultimately led to me sitting here talking to you. So Superman, while I'm not the biggest comic expert, is something that has had so much sway over my life that I really don't like watching the character get disrespected. Captured my imagination as a kid and led me to this moment sitting here now. That's the significance of Superman for me. Yes, and what we got here? The animation, games, TV shows, and movie tie-ins sound good, but it's a lot to manage. Might be too much on his plate. Yeah, I mean, this is something that I've thought of as well. It could end up being, you know, just a cobbled mess. And I'm hoping that doesn't happen. I mean, that's obvious. Like, anybody can take on too much. It's something I'm trying to avoid right now, doing two things. That's why I'm having to take a little bit of a step back and reformat how I put out my content on YouTube. It's because I've got something else going on at the same time that's really interrupting my life. So yeah, you're right. It could end up being too much on his plate, and you've got to pace yourself with these things. Otherwise, you're going to end up burning out, or we're going to end up with just another giant mess of a universe like we had before. I think he's a smart enough man to have already considered that. But, you know, that could happen. Obviously, if it does, I'll be reporting on it. You can guarantee that. But anyway, Superman Legacy then. So this, of course, is going to have an asterisk with it because we had Henry Cavill. We wanted Henry Cavill. We wanted more Henry Cavill. I wanted kind of a Richard Donner, John Williams with Henry Cavill in it. That's what I wanted. I wanted to see that. I wanted the theme tune back. I wanted all of that. Because that is Superman to me and to plenty of other people. And it ain't going to be hard to use that on a new generation. No way. Anyway, DC Studio co-CEO Peter Safran revealed that Superman Legacy will mark the start of the DCU. but not an origin story. Well, yeah, if at this point you don't know Superman's origin story, you probably aren't the kind of person that these movies are going to be made for. You know, everybody knows Superman's an alien. He came here in a spaceship. He was raised by the Kents to be a human, but he is, of course, Kryptonian and super powerful. There you go. It's about all you need to know. Yellow sun and all that stuff. Kryptonite. The upcoming Superman reboot is set to focus on the titular hero trying to balance his Kryptonian heritage with his human upbringing. Now, I hope that is not an invitation to basically ruin the entire movie by making it all about that balance, like his personal life. I don't want to see a movie that's about Clark Kent dealing with balancing his life, unless it's done up to and including the amount that it was done in the Raimi Spider-Man movies, because they actually worked. They were able to carry the character along and give him that sense of humanity. But if you focus too much on this stuff, then you become a CW show, and nobody wants that. Nobody. Safran described this Superman as the embodiment of truth, justice, and the American way. Jesus Christ, my phone now? It's like every notification that could possibly happen is going on while I'm live. Sorry about that. Right, everybody shut up. There we go. Now, the thing you want to take away from this that's especially interesting is the American way part. That is extremely interesting. Truth, justice, and the American way. Because we know that the woke idiots out there were trying to get rid of the American way. Because, hey, it's super popular to hate America these days. Have you heard? God knows why. It's probably the greatest idea for a country that's ever existed. And I say that as a Brit. But no, you can't be positive for the American way anymore because everybody's a communist. They want Superman to be hanging up his cape and passing it down to his twink son, or getting, forced in a jail cell. These are the disgusting things that they've done to Superman, as well as changing the slogan to truth, justice, and a better tomorrow, which just sounds so vague that it could easily mean the insane communist agenda. But no, Safran says American way. Well, that's very inspiring for me. I think that is just great news, and hopefully a sign of the good intentions they have for the character. Quote here, "It's not an origin story. It focuses on Superman balancing his Kryptonian heritage with his human upbringing. He's the embodiment of truth, justice, and the American way. He is kindness in a world that thinks kindness is old-fashioned." Well, amen to that. I'm all in on that. Now, of course, we've got Supergirl, World of Tomorrow movie. Supergirl World of Tomorrow is set to take inspiration from Tom King's miniseries, with Gunn confirming that the movie will explore a very different type of Supergirl and be much more hardcore. Well, that would be nice. Unless it's more feelings in corridors, that would suck. Anyway, we will see the difference between Superman, who was sent to Earth and raised by loving parents from the time he was an infant, versus Supergirl, raised on a rock, a chip off of Krypton, and who watched everyone around her die and killed in terrible ways in the first 14 years of her life and then come to Earth. She's much more hardcore and not the Supergirl we're used to. Sounds good. Sounds like a good way to write two characters against each other. Two characters with the same set of powers. So that is naturally a good idea. Of course, everything I'm saying in this stream has an asterisk, and that asterisk is the fact that everything could end up getting, ruined by wokeness or diversity or politics or whatever. Anyway, the Origins Superman Legacy thing makes me very interested, as long as it's not that goddamn Ta-Nehisi Coates thing. Was it Ta-Nehisi Coates? Yeah, I think it was him. Anyway, it was one of these woke activists who was going to write a race swap Superman, and no one wants that. But here's a very interesting idea: the brave and the bold. Batman and Damian Wayne. Now, most people would probably agree Damian Wayne's not their favorite Robin, but he is a very interesting Robin, being the biological son of Batman, and of course, someone who really, really rebels regularly against him. Brave and the Bold will exist alongside Robert Pattinson's Batman, an Elseworld story set outside the DCU. Okay, good. That clears that up then. However, what makes this project different is that we'll introduce the Bat family, with Gunn confirming that the version of Robin will team up with the DCU's Batman is Damian Wayne, the biological son. Gunn described Damian as our favorite Robin, a little son of a bitch, an assassin, and a murderer. Yeah, well, that is a very interesting story in the comics when... And of course, we've seen like Nightwing, we've seen good and bad iterations of the character. It'll be interesting to see which one we get. Always makes for good drama when a hero goes bad. So, again, optimistic. So far, all very optimistic. This one is the only one I would say raised my eyebrow a little bit. Paradise Lost, the Wonder Woman prequel HBO Max series. Now, of course, it's going to be all female. That's not necessarily an inherent problem. This is what I'm always saying when these idiots come in the comments and call me a anti-woke reactionary, blah, blah, far right, whatever. And I point out to them, no, it's all about the reason that you do it. Are you doing it for a cynical reason? Are you doing it because you actually think these are good characters, or are you doing it because you want virtue points? Because if that's your motivation, get in the sea. We're not interested. What we got there? On Midnight's Edge, they had the argument that this Batman would be too old. Yeah, well, there seems to be this weird obsession lately with making Batman old and broken. Like he's already over the hill. And most people, I think, Neurotic says this a lot, and I firmly agree. We need a live-action procedural Batman show in his prime. Basically, the animated show, but live action. That would be great. That would be what we need. Yeah, it is a bit weird that they have gone with the Batman who already has a son, but again, this is all... there he is. Hello, Coach. Welcome to the stream, buddy. Good to see you. He should be the same age as Superman. Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, I don't think that... I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that it's going to destroy it. But given that he would have, a 10, 12-year-old son, then Batman may be too old. He may be getting to the end of his rope. And again, it does seem like a missing of the mark. They always seem to want to go with origin stories. And if not origin stories, then like retirement stories. And yeah, I think there is every chance that could miss the mark. But if it's good, it's good. A lot of people said that Batfleck was going to be terrible. He's too old to play Batman, and then they ended up loving him. So I guess with a grain of salt, I'll take it that way at least. Anyway, we got Coach MC here, my good friend that I haven't seen for weeks and weeks and weeks because, of course, I haven't had time or I've been in the wrong place to do Saturday Night Hypnosis. I started the stream, Coach, with a bit of an explanation of where I've been and what I'm doing. I've got another venture going on at the moment that's consuming an awful lot of my time. It involves relocation and driving stuff to and from the other side of this island where I live. So it has meant that I can't just keep putting out videos. This is why I've decided to take the live stream path. So I hope everybody's enjoying it. And thanks for being here, buddy. Really appreciate the support. What's she saying now? Don't have a shroud of fantasy, so whether rebooting or ended badly. Yeah, of course. That is basically what ends up happening when people don't know what to do. They try to... They always go for an origin story with someone like Batman because it's usually the easiest thing to tell. The origin story, how a person turns into the person. It's naturally an interesting story. The real talent comes in continuing that story when they are already established and in their prime. Or you do a story where they're at the end of their career, where things are winding down, where something terrible will happen because they're getting too old. Or Sen, we're waiting for you to come back and shill the hell out of the panel. Yeah, I don't have any Pepsi today, but I could shill something else. No, I don't really have anything. No, not shilling today, buddy. Sorry about that. What we got here? He'll be in his early to mid-30s. I'm guessing, but Superman will be in his 20s if all this is true. Yeah, I don't know. We've had an older older Batman versus a younger Superman before, and it didn't exactly make sense. It's one of the things people didn't like about it was the fact that they should be roughly the same age and kind of happen at roughly the same time so that they don't cross paths until a bit later. But hey, that's what it is. This Paradise Lost thing makes me just a little skeptical because, like I said, if you're doing an all-female thing, okay, you could say woke, feminist rubbish, but it doesn't have to be. It could be good. But the fact that they're Pepsi Gang, yeah, represent. The fact that they're saying this is going to be like a Game of Thrones-ish story, that really bugs me. It seems like a desperate attempt to try and turn everything into Game of Thrones. And I think we all know that isn't going to work because of the way the Game of Thrones ended. Yes, okay, House of the Dragon is doing well, but is it a freak? Is everything that's going to be a story about politicking and betrayal going to capture everybody's imagination, or is it going to be total trash? I guess we don't know. Watch this space. That's the only one that I have my eyebrow raised at the moment, though. So far, I think everything else has the potential to be good, but of course, it could end up being terrible. Violent. Yeah, it could end up being violent. That's a good point, Greg. We see here that If they're saying Game of Thrones, it means possibly sex and violence. I don't think you want that necessarily in a Wonder Woman universe, that even if Wonder Woman's not one of them yet. But again, it could work. I don't know. I just wonder about the motivations of a bunch of people who go in and the first thing they say is Game of Thrones in Themyscira. It's like, okay, I see why you do that because any producer would greenlight it, but the rest of us sitting here going, not sure. You know, whatever. I don't know. At this point, it's too early to tell. Now, this one's really interesting. Booster Gold. Look at the art he used in the video. Yeah, that's true, yeah. But Booster Gold HBO Max series. Now, this sounds like it could be really interesting, of course, because Booster Gold is, as he even says here, I was about to say it myself, a loser from the future who uses basic future technology to come back to today and pretend to be a superhero. Now, that's a brilliant idea. That's always been a good idea. Imposter syndrome as a superhero. Has every opportunity to take real advantage of James Gunn's sense of humor, Guardians of the Galaxy style. I mean, look at what they did with Star-Lord. They made him a very, very competent person who also isn't taken too seriously and kind of acts like a bitch at times. But he's managed to walk that tightrope without making it woke trash. He's managed to walk that tightrope and turn him into an endearing character. So if he can pull that off with this character, I've got a lot of optimism for it. But of course, like I said, any of these could turn out to be complete and total trash. It's too early to tell. And we still have to get through Amber Heard 2 and Ezra Miller's Flash before we get anywhere near any of this stuff. And both of them will have an effect on interest for these properties as well. Anyway, we've got a few, but I'm going to have to wrap this topic up because I'm running out of time. I haven't got too long for the stream today. And I've got other things I'm going to talk about. Creature Commandos. That looks cool. It totally looks like it's pure James Gunn. He could do a lot with this. We've got a Waller series, and this is another one of those things that makes me wonder what's going on. Yes, exactly, Coach. There is some potential. It could take advantage of the James Gunn format, which has worked very, very well, at least a good couple of times, 2 or 3 times now. That's why he's been trusted with this, and it could work. But why Amanda Waller? And if it's going to be Amanda Waller, then why is it Viola Davis again? Is she the only competent black middle-aged actress who can play Amanda Waller? There are plenty of others. But if the other question is, if you're going to have Amanda Waller, then why don't you have Henry Cavill? Why don't you have Ben Affleck? Why don't you have Gal Gadot? Why do you keep mixing bits of this universe with bits of that universe? It's just strange, you know? Don't understand it. I mean, I guess it's because Peacemaker, of course, is totally safe because it's a James Gunn production. We all knew that John Cena wouldn't be going anywhere. No matter what I watch that guy in, I can't seem to get rid of him from my life. Had to watch him for like 15 years in WWE, and now he's infecting my geeky entertainment as well. Oh, well, whatever, John China. Moving on, Lanterns, procedural, it seems, Green Lantern sort of detective show, kind of like a true detective with superpowers, featuring Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart. So, yeah, you've got some actual diversity there as opposed to just kicking the white guy in the nuts in favor of the black guy. So that's fair enough. I actually have a bit of time for this. What we got? Hello, Traveler. Morning. WoTF? That's, by the way, one of the reasons why I even called my channel Will of the Fans, is because it looks like WTF. And friends, we'll be sticking around for this stream. Happy to be here and good to see you back. Thank you very much. Yeah, this is a stream that I'm doing kind of as an experiment too. I've explained it to everybody already, but I'll explain it again. It's getting a little bit too hard to run a new... Good to see you, Coach. It's getting a little bit too hard to run a new venture with actual business that's starting on this island, on the other side, relocating my whole life and my family, and making videos upon videos every day. Seems like this is the elegant solution. Just get online, go live, and talk to you guys personally, which I think is actually working out really well. I hope you're enjoying the format. Let me know if you are. I'm always happy to hear you guys' opinions. What we got here, Gun nerds to walk to what needs, I guess you mean. To walk the tightrope too, he can easily Taika Waititi this whole thing off. God's sake, yeah. Taika Waititi, absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous, that guy. He just cannot do anything without irritating the fans. You see that stuff with Terry Gilliam where he's like, is this Terry Gilliam? This is Monty Python's animator and filmmaker, Terry Gilliam, who's actually just walked off the set because Taika Waititi is doing a terrible job, apparently, of Time Bandits. But he'll destroy your mythos and his career in a moment, baby. So there you go. Anyway, Lanterns looks interesting, and there's that. Swamp Thing as a movie, always been a good idea. Totally should have happened. This will be the end of Chapter 1. Looks good. Mashup quality of seeing the Rocket Raccoon standing next to Thor in Avengers Infinity War wound up being one of the highlights. So they're going to do something like that, hopefully with Swamp Thing, to investigate the dark origins of the titular monster through the perspective of horror. Very good idea. A bit original. And yeah, I'm just into seeing a Swamp Thing movie. I don't know. Again, like I've said, with all of these projects, any one of them could go terribly or turn out to be great. But at the moment, at least, I am optimistic. The Authority movie looks very interesting too. Kind of like Jack Nicholson in A Few Good Men. They know that you want them on the wall, or at least they believe that. Yeah, one of the things that the DCU is that it's not just a story of heroes and villains. Not every film and TV show is going to be about a good guy versus a bad guy. Giant things from the sky comes and good guy wins. No, of course not. That's why we have the Authority, who will be taking maybe just a little bit too hard an approach, too much of an approach with an authoritarian view to heroism, which of course means not actual heroism at all. This one, yeah, I'm quite intrigued by. I think it has a lot of potential. I'm very keen to see what they do with these characters. Could be great. Then, of course, we're going to see the Batman Part 2 as an Elseworlds thing. Perfectly fine. A lot of people enjoyed the original The Batman. Fine, absolutely. I thought it was a bit long and a bit dull, but, you know, it was okay. As an Elseworld, it does open doors for future crossovers. That's pretty cool. And we've got it. So there you go. That is the DC slate as we're looking at it right now. It does appear that it is going to have a lot of potential to make people very, very happy. Very keen to see what James Gunn and Peter Safran are going to do with it next. But of course, all of that is dependent on what we hear, what we see, and what gets reported over the next few months and indeed years. So there you go. I'm pretty hyped for it. And a lot of you guys seem to be having some tepid or you know, just common or garden enthusiasm for it. So fair enough. Can't really complain about anything I've seen there. Hope it goes well. Really do. Now, the other thing, of course, about when it comes to changing origins is The Last of Us. Now, I, full disclosure, have not watched Last of Us episode 2 or 3 yet, but I have got a lot of information about them. I'm going to get around to doing a review. I just haven't prioritized it because I kind of got my interest sucked dry when I found out what they were doing to Bill and Frank. Now, there was a war in my comments section, and I thought, you know, this is worth pursuing. So I did look into exactly what happened with Bill and Frank, and I gotta say, I don't give a damn at all how great it was made, how wonderfully it was produced, how many shill websites want to talk about how it's the best thing about the story. The Last of Us, the original story, was widely considered to be one of the greatest gaming stories ever told, and it didn't need a massive gay flashback when we meet Bill. Now, of course, I know the fate of Bill and Frank in the episode. I'll try to avoid spoilers for now, but, you know, maybe later. This one really is irritating me because there was no need for it. You really just don't need to add to the woke potential by doing this. I mean, look at this. So, for those who don't know, they changed the backstory of Bill and Frank. Now, spoilers for the game, but the game's 10 years old, so if you haven't played it by now, it's kind of on you, you know? In the game, you meet Bill in Lincoln. He is a gruff, unfriendly piece of shit. He is horrible to Ellie and Joel. Less horrible to Joel, because at least he knows him. Ellie gives as good as she gets. You are with him for an extended sequence of the game, culminating in the high school battle with the bloater and finally getting away in a car that he puts together for you, while saying that is the end of his sort of involvement or owing favors to Joel, at least. So we know that. But we also find out about Frank in that we find his corpse with a noose around it. what's this guy, Traveler, saying, I have no attachment to the games, but according to those who know the games, they altered it to make the relationship more rosy and emotionally manipulative, aka the Brokeback Notebook. That is the best descriptor I have heard so far. The Brokeback Notebook. Oh, God, I might steal that. Hope you don't mind. Yeah, that's from what I've heard as well. It is exactly like that. And no, it's nothing like the game. In the game, you get no flashback whatsoever. As is usual, you have no flashback. You just basically see the state of things as they are. Yeah, exactly right. In the game, the dude offs himself early. That episode's been a parade of nonsense. Yeah, I know. And I have had so many angry people in my comments giving me crap about it that I've decided just to sort of go, well, then let me explain a couple of things so that we can clarify what I'm talking about here when I say that this is woke trash and it's an insult. The story did not need a massive gay flashback. Bill is an angry, obtuse motherfucker that nobody wants to be around. He's useful to Joel because he's got all this stocks of stuff and he's a great scavenger. He describes Frank, not even by name, I'm pretty sure, in the game as I had a partner, someone I had to care about, and then basically laments the fact that he even let himself get close to someone. Later, Ellie finds a magazine, swipes it, and is looking at it in the car, and it's gay porn, and she's laughing about how the pages are stuck together. I'm sorry, that does not constitute a relationship between Bill and Frank. All that proves is that Bill or Frank or somebody at some point used that magazine for their own sticky ends, and doesn't guarantee anything. And what we do know is that Frank's last letter to Bill that he leaves behind says literally only, I hated your fucking guts. So if there was any relationship between them, it went horribly south. We know that Frank left Bill and tried to escape Lincoln because of Bill's paranoid, obsessive ways. Tried to escape, tried to get out into the world of his own, got assaulted by a clicker, got infected, came back, and facing a transformation into an infected person, decided to take the easy way out, which actually is a very valid thing to do if you are facing the alternative of becoming one of them. There's not really any mention of any love between them. There's no overt discussion of them having any kind of romance whatsoever. Just that he had a partner, which I don't mean, and don't give me this, woke people. Partner does not mean gay partner. It doesn't mean straight partner. And this brings up the other thing, because in the show, they take the entire backstory of Bill and Frank, which we didn't even see in the game and didn't need to see, and they elaborate upon it until it's this literally just this wine and roses romance between two men that begins in the flash. Like literally they meet, they kiss, they go to bed, they spend years together, la 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 la, in like a town that only gets attacked like once. It's ridiculous. They finally, I think Raiders show up, Frank gets injured, it ends up in a wheelchair instead of getting infected, plans to end himself, Bill decides to end himself with him. So I guess the Joel and Ellie involvement with Bill just literally doesn't take place, which therefore means that a good 3 or 4 hour chunk of the main game story is not going to be there, or if it is there, won't be anything like it was, because it's Bill that takes them to the high school. It's there that they face the bloater. It's there that they find the battery? I can't remember. I haven't played the game in 10 years. Anyway, what are you guys saying? I've seen a lot of these comments coming in. Coach says, anyways, I have to get ready to shoot on set. Hey, big timer. Love it. You guys have fun. You have fun there, Coach. Enjoy. Thanks for stopping by. What else we got? It was announced getting set up to getting Joel a car with weapons. Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. It was a pretty perfectory relationship. Yes. Druckmann's involvement should have been a warning sign for everyone, especially after part 2, getting rid of Annie Henning. Yes, she was among the talent that worked on the original Last of Us. Of course, it was written by Bruce Straley with assistance from Druckmann. But, yeah, the reality here is that when Neil Cuckman is involved in almost anything these days. He has long since been brainwashed by the woke movement. He's the one who had Joel get offed in The Last of Us 2 and replaced by Bork Laser in female form. So, of course, they had to take the opportunity here to insert an unnecessary and totally deviant plot which doesn't seem to have any bearing on the story at all, other than there's a line in there somewhere towards the end where I think Bill says to Joel, I had one person worth saving. That's what I did. I saved him and I protected him. That's why men like you and me are here. We have a job to do, and God help any motherfuckers who stand in our way. That is in the show. That's not in the game. And I don't like that either. And I'll tell you why. Because Joel does not need that line to fall in paternal love with Ellie. Because that's what happens later anyway. They travel together. Joel gets injured. Ellie has to help him. Ellie goes looking for help. Ellie gets in trouble with the other guy. I don't want to say his name because I don't want to spoil it for people who don't know. And Joel ends up having to intervene, but Ellie ends up, you know what? I'm not going to do it. Let's just say there's a very creepy, very awkward and very tense scene in the game where you're stuck playing as a little girl with nothing but a knife and maybe a bow and arrow. And you are trapped and you have got to find a way out. And it is very harrowing, and the end of it is the emotional payoff for the two characters before the final chapter, which is when they get where they needed to go. And at that point you are all in on Joel's ability to rekindle his sense of paternal love, which was long dead. I like the way they showed that in the first episode. You can't have Joel at your fingertips in the show like you do in the game, so committing various violent atrocities is just not going to happen. No, what you need for Joel is he has to show his callousness in another way because you're not there doing it. So having him throw the little boy's body on the bonfire with no concern whatsoever shows the obvious visual contrast to the last scene where he was holding his daughter Sarah and crying like a father would, you know? So yeah, that shows his callousness. I really hope that they don't do anything to change the outcome for him and Ellie. And I don't think that we needed Bill to have some transformative experience to do it. I don't think you needed to turn these characters into this. They have done it for virtue points. They don't need it. And one of the real big reasons why everybody knows that, excuse me, is because we know that they aren't going to do this with, say, Joel and Tess. We're not going to get a big backstory for any of them. They didn't do it. No, but they had to do it for Bill and Frank because Neil Cuckman cannot resist the temptation to crowbar in some LGBT stuff. It's got to be done. And then, a lot of things that people were saying in the comments on my video about it were kind of on the money. Yes, I forgot about the gay porno mag. No, I don't think that actually proves any relationship between Bill and Frank. All it proves is that somebody there liked gay porn. But, they're not going to do this with any other characters unless it is Neil Cuckman's DLC for The Last of Us, which, of course, as we may remember, is about Ellie and, is it Riley? It's Marlene's daughter. And their strange, budding lesbian relationship, all the while reminding you that Ellie is, at the time, 14 years old. So, left to his own devices, that is what Neil Druckmann will make, an underage lesbian story. And they say they're not coming for the kids. Yeah, right. Does he die in season 2? Place your bets. Are we talking about Joel? Well, that is one of the reasons why everybody's had an eyebrow raised to this show from the very beginning, because all roads, very much like how Star Wars, all roads lead to Jake Skywalker, all roads lead to Abby in The Last of Us. And if that is what they're going to do, and I don't believe that Neil Druckmann would do anything else because he's so proud of himself and loves to jerk off over his own writing, that, yeah, we're going to see probably a nice scene with a golf club either at the end of season 1 or at the beginning of season 2, depending on how much they're trying to go for the Game of Thrones shock factor. Kind of hard to tell, but we are, a third the way through this series now, and we've wasted an entire episode on two characters who have no bearing whatsoever on the rest of the story, simply to insert a gay romance that is a massive deviation from the character and the character's fates from the game, and that is totally stupid. Traveler says, from a writing perspective alone, this was filler that could have been cut or reduced. Whenever I see stuff like this, I cannot help but think that this was mandated, regardless if the story suffers. Yes, of course, exactly. This is what they do. They shove this stuff in for virtue points. It's not about organically in like world building. It's not about representation either. It's about ESG scores, and that's why nobody takes it seriously. I assume, Traveler, you're talking about the Abbey Golf Club moment from Last of Us 2. Yeah, I'm dreading it too. I never even played The Last of Us 2. I watched Mauler play it, I think, because I have wanted nothing to do with it when I found out what they did to Joel, what they did to the players, making them play as Abby, and what they did with that weird little kid who's somehow obsessed with their gender identity in a world where even getting food would be difficult. No, it's all been destroyed by political correctness and doesn't need to be continued in any way, shape, or form. They'll crowbar in this story and waste an hour of your life, and they'll probably end up wasting Joel. If they can probably do it in an even more humiliating way, then they will. And they'll probably lie about it in the trailer like they did in the game. So there you go. That's what I think. I don't think this was a good idea. I don't think this added anything. I don't think this has done anything to help sell the series. I think it's just caused division. Again, I think Druckmann really seriously needs to just stop crowbarring in this stuff. It's not that we're anti-gay. It's not that we're homophobic or anything like that. It's that we're sick of it. We're just sick of it at this point. Oh, here comes the episode you can just skip. Okay, thanks. Thanks for wasting my time. Thanks for doing this, not because of any organic reason or character reason or because it actually adds to the story in any way, but for virtue points. Thanks for changing it so that they don't have a horrific, tumultuous relationship that ends in a suicide. No, it's the Brokeback Notebook. Thank you very much for that one. I'm very happy to steal that from you, Traveler. Thank you very much. Anyway, that's it for that topic. The only last thing I really have to say, once again, in this video was about the very interesting development I found that had happened with Zachary Levi, because I think that what he's done, and hopefully this doesn't get the stream demonetized or anything like that, is very important for Hollywood to see the kinds of actual support that people get when they just come out and say something based. As everybody knows, recently Zachary Levi tweeted out that he hardcore agreed that pharmaceutical corporation Pfizer is a danger. Now, I'm not going to get into this too much. I don't like to wax political too much because I'm a very small channel and I like to keep it mostly related to nerddom. But hey, he is Shazam, so it's loosely connected. And one thing I will say absolutely categorically before I just get right into this is I'm a pureblood. I'm a proud pureblood. There's absolutely no chance in hell I was going to let anybody tell me what I put in my body. No way, no dice, no how. Not happening. I absolutely refused, and it's caused complications to my life, but I've just ridden those complications because I do not believe that we should have been told anything mandated. And as more and more people begin to come out now and say that we were the ones who were right, we were the ones who could see the writing on the wall early, we were the ones who just quietly waited for all this to blow over and avoid it. And if to any of you, of course, if you got the thing, if you got the jab, if you got the Fauci ouchie, as they call it, well, that's fine. That's up to you. If it was up to you, if it was not up to you, then you have my sympathy. I've seen people end up with complications because of it. I've seen one of the reasons I'd say earlier in the stream when I talked about losing my mother, it wasn't necessarily anything to do with a chemical makeup, but certainly was exacerbated by long-lasting bouts of depression that were caused by lockdowns. Certainly didn't help. That's why if I ever get my hands on Mr. Fauci himself, then I have no predictions for what I would do to him. And I think that the recent news from Project Veritas and their little interaction with that Pfizer executive and their plans. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely no hate for anyone who got it. Well done there, Willem. No, we can't hate the people who had to do it or wanted to do it any more than they should have hated us, which a lot of them did. We got called all kinds of horrible things for refusing to take this stupid thing. And now we're seeing the results. And we'll be seeing the results for 20 years. Maybe more. Maybe 40 years. We have no idea what is going to happen here. We already know they didn't test it properly before pushing it out to release. We know that people have had serious complications. And now we know that they are preemptively testing to engineer more. They have a very evil, anti-human perspective. It's disgusting. And they shouldn't be given any time of day whatsoever by anyone with any kind of critical thinking ability. No way. The reason I never took that poison, given how hard they were pushing it, already made me wary. Exactly, same as me. Vax is supposed to be tested for 5 years before being released to the public. Wow. I didn't actually know that. That's really interesting. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, they pushed this so fast. And I mean, I was already fairly into the geek rabbit hole of Red Pilgrim at the time. I mean, I've been watching Nerdrotic and channels like that for years now. So when this started to come, I was like, all right, I'll play along for 2 weeks. And after 2 weeks, I decided, all right, I'll write it out for a month. And after that month, I began to get very skeptical, and I began to get more and more skeptical, and I started to look into things that I can't talk about on my channel. And the result is now we're sitting here going, ha, 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 we were right, and they are doing everything they possibly can to tear down people who still say that this was a bad thing that happened, and we all know that they're right. Like Zachary Levi, of course. I feel bad for those who are forced to get this in fear of losing their livelihood. I do too. I feel absolutely terrible for them. That's why I respect the Daily Wire for suing the Biden administration and winning. Because they were talking about anything like you have 100 employees, you must force them to get this. What country is that? It's like, it's supposed to be, the land of the free, not Stalin's Russia. We are fighting back now. You're goddamn right. We are fighting back now. We are winning too. We are winning. It is getting better and better. Yeah, Djokovic. Yes, he came out and said he wasn't going to do it, and he got ostracized. He would be the greatest of all time. He would be probably on 25, 26 Grand Slam wins by now, but he's still on 22 and tied for first of all time because he wouldn't get the poke. And fair enough. I don't need to be the greatest at anything in my life as long as I've got my integrity. That is how I feel. That's why I've come onto this stream today and spent the first 10, 15 minutes of it explaining how guilty I feel about not uploading for you guys recently. Integrity is important. If you don't have that, you don't have much. And it's good to see that Zachary Levi has integrity, as we can see here. Let me get myself on the screen. Yeah, he said that Pfizer is a danger, and we can see demonstrably that they are a danger. Celebrities bask in using their platforms granted by fame to promote causes and advocate for or against things good and bad, notwithstanding their knowledge or experience. The latest to take a stand is Shazam actor Zachary Levi, but there's an intriguing quick twist. He is coming forward with his skepticism and caution about the big pharmaceutical company Pfizer. That's right. Quoting and replying to a tweet Sunday by self-styled investment guru Lyndon Wood asking, do you agree or not, that Pfizer is a real danger to the world, Levi responded with hardcore agree, accompanied by a neutral face emoji, 11 million views, and the support of Ethan Van Sciver. Yeah, well, regardless of what you think about Ethan Van Sciver and the great divide of the fandom menace, I'm personally a fan of both sides. Fandom menace was never an organized group in the first place. But, it's very good. We put just one example of what I'm referring to. The second link contained a link to a Justice Department article concerning a $2.3 billion settlement Pfizer paid for fraudulent marketing and illegal promotion of certain products. However, the rub is that Levi's link covers a pre-pandemic case from 2009. Yes, they did have to pay $2.3 billion. How did this company get elevated to the status that they have now as like the great savior of humanity, with people actually simping for a pharma company? Like, they're going, oh, you got to get the Pfizer. It's the best. They're so great. They've come to our rescue. No, motherfucker. They haven't come to anybody's rescue. They are here for profit. It is extremely likely that they're the reason the Wuhan whoop went off in the first place. They were there. They were involved in some way. We can see this. No, do not believe. Results speak for themselves. And you do not just blandly and blindly, just follow the narrative. If you do, you're a puppet. Open your eyes and your ears. Think for yourself. Work out what you judge to be true and make your decisions based on that. Do not just suckle from the teat, or you will become the consumer that they want you to be. And that is all I got to say about that. I'm going to have to wrap this stream up in a minute, guys. I don't have a hell of a lot of time left today. This has been a pretty successful experiment. You guys have been in the chat, have been absolutely fantastic. Travel here saying, I expect Levi's own to cancel him for this. Yeah, of course. The guy he's pulling a Djokovic. He's saying what he thinks. He may get cancelled. He may not be invited back. He's made the bed. There's no way he's stupid enough to not know what happens when you do something like this and you work in Hollywood. He's obviously made his decision about what he wants to do. This is why I never aligned with the leftist ideologues, as they will cancel you for any arbitrary reason. Yes, that, and they are literal scum. They've just proved that they are trash people for as long as I can remember. I mean, it really has been an interesting 6-7 years now since Ghostbusters came out. Ghostbusters 2016 came out and began to red pill the first major groups of people. Then, of course, it was Doctor Who that opened my eyes. When I saw episode 1 of Doctor Who season 11, the first thing I did was go on YouTube and type Doctor Who sucks or bad or terrible. Led me to Bowles Trek, led me to Nerdrotic, led me to sitting here in front of you right now. So there you go. That's what happened there. Then, of course, we had The Last Jedi, which was the big, great polarizer of everything. And now there are more of us every day. It's just funny that these things are so clearly tied together. Make us dumb with bad entertainment. Make us lazy and fat with body positivity. Make us question our humanity with constant movements for abortion and trans rights. Do these things and make people demoralized so you can take over. I'm never going to get this stream demonetized. I need to shut up before I say something truly stupid. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this one up for now, guys. Thank you very much for being here. It's been an absolute blast to sit here for an hour and talk to you guys. At least I know I can stream, so that takes the weight off me a little bit, knowing that I'm going to be very busy over the next few days. I'm going to be traveling a lot. I'm going to be moving part of my life to another place on the other side of this island, and I've got to work on branding, marketing, and all that stuff for the new venture, which means I can't be sitting making thumbnails for hours and hours at a time, and I'm a perfectionist when it comes to my thumbnails. What are you saying, Trav? Not a problem. Take care, all of the fans and friends, and good fortune to you in your endeavors. Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate that very, very much. It means a lot to me. And Willem here says, or is it, how do you pronounce that? Is it Willem, Whalem? I'm not sure. Sorry, buddy. Good night or good morning to everybody. And yeah, like I said, there will be times coming up where you won't see me for a few days at a time. When I do have time, I will pop into streams. If I think maybe this weekend I might be able to join Saturday Night Hypnosis. So if I'm able to do that, then I hope to see you guys there with Hypnotic and Coach and Film Rebel and Dragon Slayer and all those guys. Hopefully they'll be there too. Need to catch up with them and try and find some time to watch The Last of Us as well. And I will be back with another video sooner or later. But don't worry, this is not the end of the channel. In a good couple of months' time, things will be back to normal and probably better than they've ever been. So thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking by me. You're all legends, and I will see you in the next one. But, until then, see you next time. Bye-bye.